Gynecologists reveal their most unforgettable cases. Gynecologists, doctors, and nurses were asked one simple question. What's the most unforgettable case you've ever seen? The answers ranged from awkward and emotional to absolutely unbelievable. One gynecologist said the most shocking patient of his career was a young woman who arrived at the clinic with a problem she'd been hiding for years. At first, everyone assumed it would be an easy fix. Within minutes, they realized they were dealing with one of the most difficult cases they'd ever encountered. The treatment required multiple procedures, and the entire medical team remembered it for years afterward. Another healthcare worker shared a story about a patient who ignored her recovery instructions after major surgery. Everything seemed fine at first. Then unexpected complications changed everything. It became one of the most discussed cases in the hospital, reminding everyone how important proper recovery really is. Not every story was tragic. One woman was so nervous during her very first gynecological examination that she accidentally squeezed the doctor so tightly the entire appointment had to stop. Years later, she laughs every time she tells the story. At the time, nobody in the room knew what to say. A medical student also recalled assisting during what was expected to be a routine cancer surgery. Instead, doctors discovered the disease had spread much farther than anyone imagined. The operation lasted more than 13 hours. Several surgical teams joined the procedure, and everyone left the operating room physically and emotionally exhausted. Against all expectations, the patient survived and eventually reunited with her family. Another doctor remembered a case involving a patient who had ignored an unusual symptom for far too long. By the time she finally sought medical attention, the situation had become far more complicated than it could have been. It became a reminder that small symptoms should never be ignored. Sometimes, however, doctors are surprised for completely different reasons. One trainee entered an examination room expecting a severe medical condition. Everyone noticed an unpleasant smell and assumed the worst. After a careful examination, they realized the cause was something nobody had predicted. The entire room burst into laughter once the truth became clear. Medical professionals often say reality is stranger than fiction. Every year they encounter situations that sound impossible until someone confirms they actually happened. One emergency room volunteer described assisting with a patient whose condition immediately caught everyone's attention. Even experienced staff members struggled to understand what they were seeing. Years later, people still talk about that day. Not every unforgettable memory comes from tragedy. One doctor recalled treating a woman with advanced cancer. The operation was difficult, but what everyone remembered most wasn't the surgery. It was her husband. He never missed a single day. He held her hand, encouraged her through recovery, and stayed by her side no matter how difficult things became. Many nurses later said it was one of the strongest examples of love they had ever witnessed. Doctors also see patients who unknowingly live with unusual conditions for years before discovering them completely by accident. Fortunately, modern medicine can often correct problems that once seemed impossible to treat. Those moments completely change people's lives. Nurses also remember cases where routine procedures suddenly became incredibly complicated. Recovery stretched from weeks into months. Entire medical teams worked together to help patients overcome one challenge after another. Although exhausting, those recoveries reminded everyone why teamwork in medicine matters. Of course, hospitals aren't only filled with dramatic moments. Patients sometimes ask questions so unexpected that doctors remember them forever. Others crack jokes at the worst possible moment, making everyone in the room struggle not to laugh. After spending decades in healthcare, many professionals admit that medicine never becomes predictable. Every patient arrives with a different story. Every examination presents a new mystery. Every day offers another lesson. That's exactly why so many doctors love what they do. Behind every hospital door is another story waiting to be told. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more unbelievable real-life medical stories. And tell us in the comments, what's the craziest true story you've ever heard?